Hey guys, so I told you we were going to be reading an article about pale mail. So the title of this article is What's Best? The Debate About Pale Mail's Nest. A debate is a discussion involving people who feel differently about a topic. So there are two groups of people that you are going to learn about that feel differently about pale mail's nest. And this article is going to explain each group's opinion. Now, this text that we're looking at is different from the previous text that we read yesterday. Yesterday, we read City Hawk, and that was a book that was based on real events. This is not a book, it's a short article giving information. And this article might be found online on a website, it might be found in a newspaper or a magazine. So what we're going to do is we're going to read this article and I'm going to mark it up on here so that we can talk about some words and we can determine the main idea and the key details. And then you are going to be deciding what your opinion about the nest is, what your personal opinion is, how you feel about it. And you're going to be expressing that in the independent writing portion. So let's get started. Hawks in the big city. A special red-tailed hawk named Pale Mail and his mate, Lola, are quickly becoming famous birds. Unlike most hawks who like to nest in trees, these hawks built their nest on a tall building. And it isn't just any tall building. Pale Mail and Lola found a fancy apartment building in New York City to use as their nesting place. Bird watchers are watching in amazement as these birds make a home for themselves right in the middle of one of the busiest cities in the world. Some neighbors who live in the apartment building are not quite as happy. They think these birds are a nuisance and something has to be done. A nuisance is a person or a thing that annoys. So some of the neighbors find that Pale Mail and Lola are a nuisance. So, we already have been introduced to the two groups of people here. The first group is the bird watchers, who are watching in amazement as these wild birds make a home for themselves. And then the second group is the neighbors who live in the apartment building. Now, notice it says some neighbors who live in the apartment building. Does that mean all of the neighbors, all of the people who live in that apartment building? No, just some of them feel that way. All the bird watchers are angry and upset, but others think it is the right thing to. I'm sorry. In the end, the nest may need to be removed. All the bird watchers are angry and upset, but others think it is the right thing to do. There are usually two sides to every story. So let's just review quickly. Who are the two groups of people and what do they want? How do they feel? You can pause and either think out loud or discuss that with a grown up that you're with or whoever's helping you. Pause. All right. So if you said the bird watchers want to leave the nest up and the people in the apartment want to take the nest down, you are correct. Let's read a little bit more about each one of these groups' opinions. Now, while I'm reading this, when you hear a reason that the group feels a certain way, I want for you to pat your head. Okay, so be listening for, in this first section, I want you to be listening for the reasons that the bird watchers want to leave the nest up. And when you hear that, pat your head, and then I'm going to go back and review. Leave that nest up, the bird watchers are saying. They think the nest should stay where it is. Birds need nests to protect and raise their babies. Tall buildings are good places for birds to nest because they are similar to trees, a hawk's natural nesting place. Also, the hawks can easily find food in the big city. They love to dine on rats, mice, and pigeons. The bird watchers also think that leaving the nest up is great for the people who enjoy watching wild birds. There are many reasons why these people want the nest to be left up on the building. These hawk lovers will be so sad if the nest is taken down. And here you can see the illustration that shows the bird watchers, and they are using their binoculars to look up at the ledge here so that they can see Pale Male and Lola in their nest in the city. All right, let's go back and let's highlight some of the reasons that the bird watchers want to keep the nest up. I hope you were patting your head when you heard those reasons. So the first one that we heard was birds need nests to protect and raise their babies. Talked about this a couple days ago when you were building your background knowledge about nests. So I'm going to go ahead and put a little number 1 next to this. So the first reason they say that the nest should stay up is because birds need nests to protect and raise their babies. Also, buildings are good places for birds to nest because they are similar to trees. Similar means the same as, right? So a building is the same as a tree in that it is very tall. Okay, so there's the second reason. Let me put a little 2 next to that. Also, the hawks can easily find food in the city. There's another reason. They love to dine, that means to eat rats, mice, and pigeons. So it's easy for them to find food in the city. That's another reason that the nest should stay up, according to the bird watchers. So I'll put a 3. The bird watchers also think that leaving the nest up is great for the people who enjoy watching wild birds. So it's great for bird watchers, bird lovers. Bird advocates was the word that we use for people who help birds. So I'll put a 4 there. So here are some of the reasons that the bird watchers want to leave the nest up. Birds need nests to protect and raise their babies. A tall building is a good place for a hawk to build a nest because it's similar to a tree. Hawks can easily find food in the big city to bring back to the nest. And the nest is great for bird watchers to observe. So here are some of the reasons to leave the nest up. Let's see what are the reasons to take the nest down. So remember, some of the people who live in the apartment building want the nest to be taken down. Let's read about their opinion. When you hear a reason that the nest should be taken down, I'd like for you to pat your head. That nest is a mess. Many of those who live in the apartment building want the nest to be taken down. Take that nest down, they are saying. Bones, feathers, and bird poop fall onto their balconies and the sidewalk below their nest. The nest. What a mess, they complain. There are other reasons why some people want the nest to be taken down too. The bird watchers who gather to watch the hawks are making the area too crowded. Also, parts of the nest fall onto the sidewalk below, which is dangerous for the pedestrians who walk there. We can use, oops, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to do that. We can use the clue from the sentence here to figure out what pedestrians mean. It says, if we look in the next part of the sentence, pedestrians who walk there. So pedestrians are people who walk on the sidewalk. In New York City, it is legal to remove a bird nest as long as there are no babies or eggs in it. There are no eggs or baby birds yet, and they think Pale Male and Lola can find a better place to live. For all of these reasons, many people think the city should take the nest down. So this article was written before any kind of eggs were laid in the nest. Let's go back and let's find the reasons that some people in the apartment building want to take the nest down. So the first one is that bones, feathers, and bird poop fall onto their balconies and the sidewalk below the nest. And that makes a huge mess. So that's the first reason. The nest is creating a mess on the sidewalk and all that stuff is falling onto their balconies. There are other reasons. It says the bird watchers who gather to watch the hawks are making the area too crowded. So, would you like it if there were huge crowds of people on the sidewalk outside of your house? These apartment dwellers did not. So, we're going to put this as the second reason. The crowds of people are getting to be too much, and parts of the nest fall onto the sidewalk below, which is dangerous for the pedestrians who walk there. So, Pale Male could be bringing food back to the nest for Lola, and they are birds of prey, so they're eating it, and then there are bones left over, and those bones and other items might fall from the nest onto the sidewalk and could hit someone who is walking down below. So there's another reason that they think that the nest needs to come down. Sorry. So I'll put a 3 there. Okay, so we had two groups of people here, the bird watchers and people who live in the apartment, and they had differing opinions. That was the main idea of this text, right? That there are two groups of people with different opinions about what should happen to Pale Male's nest. And we went through and we picked out some of the reasons that they feel these particular ways. Now, what you are going to do in your independent writing is you are going to decide, how do you feel? What is your opinion? Do you think that Pale Male's nest should be taken down? Or do you think that Pale Male's nest should stay up? Now, just like this article gave reasons for the opinions, you have to come up with a reason that you feel that way as well. It's not enough to just say, I think that Pale Male's nest should stay up. You need to explain why. And you might choose one of these reasons that were discussed in the article, or you might have a reason of your own that explains why you feel that way. So you are going to do that on the next slide. You are going to express your opinion in writing. And if you want to look at this article again, I included a link that you can click on and you can pull up the article so that you can read it yourself. I can't wait to see what your opinion is. Great job today.